Hey, yo, it's The Building Downtown. You can follow us on social media at The Building DT. You can follow and subscribe to the show on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm your host, Jason Kelly. You can follow me at JKellyMMA. Follow my co-host, Kirill Kasatskiy, at Kirill Raps, and my other co-host, Amy Barton, at Ames Bell. So today we're getting on a little bit of a serious note. The community that I grew up in, I'm still in, was rocked by a certain crime that happened in May 24 weekend of 2001. A young man by the name of Howard Joel Munroe lost his life due to a attack that he suffered at Victoria Park. It was quite the crime, still talked about today, 20 years later. One of the men convicted for the murder of Howard Joel Munroe is Dirk Young, and he wrote a book. He is out now. He served his time. He's paid his debt to society, wrote a book called Under, Over, or Through It, where you can get on Amazon. And he is here today to talk to us about his life, the book, and everything that went down. Dirk, thanks for joining us, my man.
Thanks for coming through, man.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Obviously that's, the focal point when people hear your name, especially around this city, but there's a lot more to you, a lot more to the journey of your life. And like I said, when we spoke earlier, I kind of want to take it back all the way to the beginning. Now, you were not born in Canada, correct? Where were you born?
I was born in Newcastle, England.
Okay. And how long did you live there?
14 and a half years.
And what was growing up over there like? Like, what was your childhood like?
Completely different atmosphere from my experiences I had in Canada, but I came from a broken family. My mom was on social welfare. We grew up like that. So the neighborhoods are different in England. The atmosphere is different. Your dads, they all know each other. They all go to the local pubs. Everybody knows each other. It's difficult to answer that question. The culture is just different. The jokes are different. The attitude's different. The camaraderie is different. It's European.
Okay. And was it a rougher neighborhood that you grew up in compared to some of the other ones that are over there?
I wouldn't say so. It just seemed like it was the norm.
The norm?
I grew up in the 1980s, so you get into a couple of scraps. Your dad tells you, like, even the teachers would make you shake a hand after you had a little fist fight. It was just a different attitude, different belief system. It's not the way it is these days to be geared towards children to, talk things out, which is pro-social, and it's good to do it that way. But I was raised a little different. One of the first fights I got into was my mom making me stand up to a bully.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to start with this too, because I grew up in Russia, right? And that's why I was wondering, when you moved here, right? And you say you were a teenager. Like, I moved here when I was 16, and I've seen enough shit to traumatize me for the rest of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you think it's the norm, but when I was dipped into here, it's a completely different, right? Well, from Russia to here is a drastic change. I'm sure it's not like that to UK, but you know what I mean? It's definitely what you're saying. It's different culture, different everything, and you think it's the norm.
Culture shock.
Right, like we used to, it was a normal thing to get in a circle after school and just knuckle up one-on-one. You know what I mean? The whole school watched, and then then the next day we're still sitting in the same class kicking it. You know what I mean? It's a normal thing.
Shit. So what was it that led to you moving here? Did you move here with family, by yourself? Like, what's the story behind that?
My mom was born and raised in Canada, in Kitchener-Waterloo, actually.
Oh, okay.
So she has 11 brothers and sisters. Fast forward the story. She met my father. He was 7 years older than her. He was deported. She decided to go there to England with him. Obviously, she got pregnant with me. Things didn't work out by the time I was around about 7. I write about that in the book. He was an alcoholic. He had issues with addictions. He was a bit of abusive. I go into better detail in the book. And then when I was about 14 and a half, she decided to come back to Canada, where she was born and raised, and believed she would have the support of her family, and introduced me to actually meeting my grandma and going to my grandma's place for Christmas. And like I said, I never grew up in that atmosphere when I grew up. It's not like I had aunts and uncles and godfathers, and you go to family gatherings. It was always just me and my mom, basically.
Oh, shit. So when you moved here, there wasn't much support from anyone? Was it quite an adjustment?
At first, I thought it was going to be different. I thought maybe it wasn't going to be so just me and my mom. I thought my mom would have more support. She'll be able to do more things she wanted to do in her life. She obviously had some medical issues. I thought there would be better doctors. But within 6 months, I ran away from home. I had a fucking attitude. I didn't want to be in Canada. I was already fighting a lot of the, not to take anything away from the Canadian culture. There's a lot of beautiful things to it, but like I said, culture shock, same as your friend coming from Russia. So my reaction when I felt like somebody was taking the piss out of me, whether it was funny or not funny, or they were mocking me, my reaction was just to punch them in their nose, because it's not like I grew up violently, but that seemed like it was almost like a normal reaction. Almost, for example, when you watch a hockey game, you see two guys get into it. That seems to be the norm in your culture. But if you showed that to somebody that's never seen hockey, they might think that's barbaric.
Yeah, true.
So when I came here, and a lot of people parents would complain about me fighting a lot, but to me, it didn't seem that far-fetched from. Plus, I was a little bit lonely. I didn't have my friends. I didn't have my neighborhood. I didn't have anybody I grew up with.
Yeah.
Things weren't going the way I wanted it to go. I had expectations, and it was just everything was falling apart, and I had an attitude.
Yeah,
I think it's because I went through the same thing again, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's what I came to a conclusion with. I started rebelling a lot too because of the same reason. The girls I grew up with, the friends, everything is gone. Now it's a new system, new language. I clicked in with Serbs a lot, but what I'm saying is I came to a conclusion that moving at that age is bad. You either need to move earlier when you're like 10 or move later when you're like 20, because in those
No, I
teenage
concur.
you know what I mean? In those teenage years, you rebel as is, and you put yourself in a different environment. You just go fucking nuts.
Yeah, and kids are relentless at that age too. So you're different right away. You have an accent, right? So right away, you're gonna catch some fucking flack for that, whether it's in good fun or not. Right? It's gonna be coming at you every fucking day at school, social life, whatever it is. Yeah, and I can verify too. Like when you came here, right? It was like, being around that age, mid-teens. A lot of the guys that were developing into the tough guys, or guys that were people's older brothers that had reputation as tough guys. It was like you knew them because you're at a certain age. And all of a sudden, your name started ringing fucking bells on the streets. Like, yo, this guy Dirk, he's around now, and there's a fucking new big man in town. Like, if you test him, get ready, you're throwing down, type thing. So,
And it was.
Were you
Go
aware?
ahead.
Were you aware that was a reputation that you were building?
No, because I came here when I was 14 and a half. I fucked off from my home when I was about 15. I started being problematic, poor time management skills, gravitating towards, doing. I didn't even do drugs or anything. I had no excuse to be bad tempered or have an attitude. But to answer your question, I didn't know who I was fighting. I didn't know if it was somebody's older brother. I didn't know who was what. All I was doing is just trying to. And then when I got attention for it, I believe when I was about 15 and a half, 16, I got a little bit more trouble. I also had I didn't give a shit because I wanted to go back home. I always thought I'm not staying here. So it doesn't matter how much trouble I get in by my 17th or 18th birthday. I'm going back home to England, nothing stopping me. But in the meantime, I created a new identity for myself by being a bit of a shoplifter or getting into fights or getting that reputation. And when I got acknowledged for it and got shown a little bit of respect and love, and I actually started making friends because of the fighting or the negativity, I think that's when I started to adopt that image and created that identity for myself. So it's almost like I wasn't allowed.
Do you think it's because that's where you fit in, right? Because you came in and you didn't like the school, you didn't like this, but fighting was so native, it's so normal to you that you fit in there and you start to flourish, right? It's just I'm just trying to ask if it was a way for you to fit in.
I feel that it was a way of me dealing with my emotions. I was a young man. I didn't really know how to deal with my emotions correctly, or even know why I have anxiety or why I'm stressed or why I'm pissed off. I didn't really self-evaluate myself correctly. So I was explosive. But once I got attention for it, then I continued that bad behavior for the attention that I got. But I didn't originally do it to fit in. It was something I was doing anyways to cope with being 14, 15 years old and feeling lonely and by yourself. And
and there was no authoritative figure, parental figure, any sort of thing like that to tell you this is wrong, right? All the rewards you're getting are for the bad behavior, right?
Yeah, definitely. Except for my mom, like she fought tooth and nail all the time to tell me right and wrong. But which 15-year-old that has a attitude problem wants to listen to their mom? Everything just sounds like a lecture. Whether it's right or wrong, you got to go to school. You got to do this. You got to talk to me. You're just like, you don't get it. You don't understand. Fuck it. So you gravitate towards like-minded people. Maybe somebody else that, is fighting also, or somebody else that is running away from home also, or.
Yeah. So during those early years here, when you first started getting into shit, were you ever arrested as a young offender for any sort of,
Yes.
death shot? Yeah, you were. What were some of the things you were arrested for?
Aggravated assault, theft under, possession of stolen property, careless use and storage of a firearm. Yeah, and in my, I know, but in my defense, you guys are gonna take the piss out of me. In my defense, I had to, listen, I had to answer this question at a parole hearing because in the paperwork it sounds worse than it is because it was actually a pellet gun, and I was reported for shooting another kid in the bum in the complex. To me, it was shits and giggles. I had this stupid little air rifle. I pointed it out the fence. I was about 16. I shot another kid in the bum. I was being stupid. It's foolish. I was just doing kid shit, and
see, back home, you would probably be let go for that. Probably be smacked on the hand, be told, you know what I mean? Because I've known people been shot with pellet guns back home. And it's just we've been digging them out of skin and shit. Like it's a thing.
And it's also different where it's a little bit different where we kind of grew up because the police know you're probably gonna get a good smack from your dad. If you show up at your front door and the police are bringing you home, sometimes the kids are like, no, I don't want to go home, man. Take me to jail. Like my dad.
The first time I got arrested at 16 years old, I was crying. I was telling him, take me to jail. Don't take me home. Because I knew my mom's going to lay a beating on me, right? And he's like, you're not
get a hiding.
Oh, man. She beat me that night, and she beat me she slapped me when I was asleep the next day. That's how I woke up. Oh, yeah, man.
So you're out here, fucking Lone Ranger, basically just knocking motherfuckers out and gaining friends as you go along. And after time, obviously it's out there, but for those who don't know, you joined a gang called the Slingers, which, I mean, they say you're the leader, this, that. I don't know if that's necessarily the fucking truth. I don't know if there ever was a head guy, right? Like I never knew of any one head guy of the Slingers, right? It's just a group of people wearing white bandanas. Fucking, So how does that come into your life, the early ages of the Slingers? Like, how does that gang life, you want to rep these colors, how does that get presented to you?
It wasn't, because you got to remember the reason why people get I've been labeled as a leader is because I was one of the founders of the original idea to create the group. Now in Forest Heights, you had 2-1. Remember 2-1?
Yeah, I remember them.
You had all kinds of other crews coming up. And when I grew up and I was running away from home, not to sound prejudiced or anything, but in Kitchener back then, the main groups of people that stood up for each other was the Asians. So when I was 15, 16, 17, it was always like the Crips were kind of like Spanish, or in the Bloods were kind of like Asian, and they were always downtown. So if you're by yourself and you can't fight, you were getting jumped or punked off or robbed. So Slingers, after I got out a young offender and I was hanging around downtown more, there was a lot more Serbians that came over from the Bosnian War. So between 1992 and 1994, they were trying to escape that war and come here. And they were going to certain schools like KCI. And by the time they were like 15, 16, 17, learning a little bit of English, they were hanging around downtown. I was always around downtown. We had a camaraderie. We understood each other. There was that love of trying to fit in. We're not here to hurt nobody, but we always have to stick up for ourselves. We always feel like we're a target. So it just transformed into creating a group to make sure that we don't get bullied or jumped or picked on. So everyone else had somebody else had their back. But obviously, we know that gets distorted as time.
Yeah, for sure.
Crips was created for the same idea, right?
Yeah, like the real Crips. That Blood and Crip shit that was going on here back then. it was funny too, because a lot of people wouldn't even take them seriously, but people took the Slingers seriously. Like it was a fucking, it got to be like, I don't know how deep you guys were, how far it spread, but
Yeah,
it wasn't,
it got
it wasn't a fist fight at fucking Metropolis Pool Hall. It wasn't that anymore. It was fucking, weapons were involved, serious beatings, big amounts of drugs were being trafficked. It developed very fast.
It did.
Mm.
And then it got very chaotic. You have different people with different how do I explain it? I wouldn't say they have different beliefs. They just have different perceptions of what they can get out of it. So you might have a guy that can't throw his hands, but he's got a good connection with somebody to get a couple of pounds of weed. Or so that's going to snowball differently. Some people are going to gravitate towards that guy. Then you have the interviews, and then people pick different sides. And so it wasn't like everybody was a fighter. It wasn't on that level. But when you have a guy like me that resolves things with violence, and then you take a handful of people from a war-torn country that are not really fitting in too well, you might think you know the word war because you've got into a couple of hockey scraps. But when you're literally picking up a rock and smashing somebody in the head with it, and that is normal behavior for you from where you came from, that's not that extreme. To somebody else outside the box, that's extreme. But when you've coming from a war-torn country and you escape those things, and you're problematic and you're trying to fit in and you don't really know what's being said to you, but you can understand the body language, you know it's aggression. And when somebody puts their hands on you and you come from, you're going to react a certain way that might seem escalated compared to what everybody else in Kitchener was used to. So that's how I think it advanced and got, like, violence became the signature of Slingers, especially after a few years when the gunplay got involved.
Yep. Yeah, that was exactly it. You know what I mean? You'd hear, and it's not like I was a fucking part of the gang or in with the gang or affiliated or anything like that. But I had friends that were either affiliated or in it. Just I knew them from school, knew them through friends of friends, whatever it may be. So you know what I mean? It wouldn't even be stuff that's reported in the news. It's just like shit you hear on the streets. So it's like certified for real, like fucking not for play at all. Not at all.
No.
Was
and
there
this is 20 years ago.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, because
so imagine what you're hearing, and imagine being a police officer or a rookie officer, and you're hearing all these things and you're reporting it to your supervisors, and then your supervisors are making charges of some people, and you realize that, you know, this group is becoming a serious cancer for our community. And at the same time, we got to keep an eye on them because they're actually quite fucking dangerous. So when you're behaving a certain way and you're living a certain lifestyle, you forget there's other people observing you and documenting you. And so the 5-6 years that the Slingers were really around in the streets, they made a hell of a reputation, but they also, look how many people's lives got destroyed because of the bullshit.
Oh, fuck, countless. I mean,
do you think that it's because of the lack of dealership things got out of control?
Like the lack of order, you mean?
Yeah, the lack of somebody saying, no, this is not what we should do.
Like
we should be more organized. You know what I mean? Just
because I think what happened is after the tragedy of Victoria Park, I think everybody realized, holy fuck, we're in some serious shit. So I think a lot of people gravitated towards me for a safety net, and I felt the onus was on me, partly because I caused the whole bullshit, horrible tragedy in the first place. So I was feeling guilty. So I felt like I had to protect everybody and make sure. So I think what the police were accusing me of before May 20th, 2001, I actually wasn't quite that person. I had aspirations to be a gangster or this or that, but I wasn't on that level. So after that happened, I think I try to take more control and be more of a leader. And I think that's when I became the person that the police accused me of being. But I think they got it distorted because they thought I was that person prior to Joel's death. So it kind of looked like, well, here's Dirk, he's a leader, he's in charge, he's making these orders. but that's not how it went down that evening. But later on, the next 2 years of investigation, I slowly became that
That
person
guy.
where I had a little bit more say. I had a little, but also had other people that were just as frightened as me, and everybody wanted a safety net. And
So
I'm the one that I'm basically the only one that, I'm one of the few guys that has my own place. I have friendships with everybody. I make illegal money. I have so there's a lot of people gravitating towards me because I have that status also.
mhm. So leading up
So I
to
kind of go ahead.
leading up to that long weekend, May 2000.
Wait, before we get to that weekend, I'm curious. You kind of found yourself in this position, right? So once you were there, did you find that a lot of the people that were there with you also found themselves there, or did you find that you started having people trying to join you?
Both.
Yeah.
Both, which was very confusing because I didn't realize why more people would want to be gravitating to something like that. And that's why I pushed a lot of people away also, because it had nothing to do with what happened.
Man, it was at a point where people were claiming it not being a part of it. It got
I
to
know.
be it got to be cool at some point.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
it's yeah, it was I don't know. Sometimes I would laugh at some of the stuff, and some people like, oh no, we got to go out and do something about that. I go, no,
Mhm.
just leave it alone. Other people agreed. They're like, no, leave it alone because they're causing enough heat on themselves. So if they want to go and pretend that they're a slinger and do this and do that, and then let them. You know what I mean?
Fuck. Leading up to that, like, what was it between the Slingers and then the other group, because they weren't labeled as a gang, they didn't have like a gang name title on them. What,
No,
like, how did that
they
escalate?
they were yeah, they were
Like,
just a group of friends for the same reason that gravitated towards each other.
mhm,
I knew the person that died in the park. I'm gonna call him Joel.
mhm.
I really don't like to call him victim. It bothers
Yeah.
my heart.
Yeah.
So I knew Joel from school, and the other fella and the friends that he was hanging around with,
Yeah.
they had a couple of incidences with some of the Serbians, and it went back and forth.
Mhm.
And then one of Joel's friends was charged for stabbing one of my friends, who was a
Yeah.
founder of Slingers, outside of a lyric nightclub. And he was charged and found guilty of the crime. I don't want to get into details of that.
Yeah.
That caused a lot of back and forth animosity, of course. And these guys, they weren't the kind of people that, got rolled over. It had nothing to do with being black or white or this or that. It was
Mhm.
just total different. For the same reason we started, because we're not going to get picked on. They felt like they were getting picked on, and we felt like you were kind of taking it too far every time we let you off with something.
Mhm.
So every time you started a beef with one of the younger guys, and we didn't do anything about it, I feel like that specific group felt a little stronger, and so
Mhm.
the animosity was back and forth for a couple of years before May 20th.
Yeah. So, as things escalate to that day, I've been arrested before, I've been to prison, not for any length of stretch like you have or anything like that. I'm not trying to make us like in the same thing, but
No, don't. Go ahead.
but I there's been times like when I wake up and I don't like, if I'm on the run, it's one thing, because every fucking day I wake up, I wonder if that's the day. But when it's not something, if it's something where I wake up one day, I'm in a good mood, I'm having a good day, I go and I do something that night, and then something happens, pops off, and fucking 30 minutes later, all of a sudden I'm in fucking handcuffs. It's like I never fucking forget, like how that day went. So
Yeah.
did you wake up that day? You didn't do drugs or anything, you said, right? So it's not like you were up from the night before or anything. So like you wake up that day, how's your day start? Like, does it start like a normal fucking day, or was it already in the air?
No. I was already basically 2 days before my arrest. Let me backtrack. 1 week before my arrest, my co-accused was arrested in British Columbia. Now, he was on the run for other charges, and he was on house arrest, and he broke it. So he was on the run out in British Columbia.
Yeah.
So on his way back, he was captured because And then I got a call from a lawyer saying he was charged with first-degree murder. So
Okay.
what happened is, during that week, I started to find out that they're planning on making other arrests.
Okay.
So I called one of my friends to use his name, rest in peace, he's gone now, to use his name to get me a hotel room. So I already felt like
It was coming.
it was in the air. You
Yeah.
have this. So I felt it wasn't like it was just fresh. I kind of knew all week long something was going to happen. And then they got me coming out of the hotel room. They surrounded me, typical takedown SWAT team.
Mm.
So I
Excuse me.
kind of felt it. But you got to remember the investigation was going on for 21 months.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
always have that kind of paranoia of it's coming sooner or later. But I was dealing with so many other things. I got like 10 guys in jail. I'm trying to make sure their girlfriends are okay. I'm trying to make sure everyone's still stuck together and everyone's being solid, and I'm micromanaging this, and I'm pushing away good friends that are close to me because they got nothing to do with the situation, but I'm trying to get closer with the people that were there in the park that weren't really even my friends. Like my
Mhm.
third core accused, we were never tight. That guy just ran around and told everybody he's the guy that did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Like
heard
your
that
friend
before.
mentioned earlier, people were just claiming things. So he
Mhm.
put himself in his own predicament. But then I heard a rumor that my enemies, I considered them enemies at the time, wanted to hurt him because of what he was doing. So I went out of my way to protect this person,
Mhm.
not because of friendship, but I just didn't want anybody else getting hurt over more nonsense. And this guy he's just one of those people that didn't realize, he didn't have no forethought of the seriousness he was doing when he was running around saying he's the guy that did it.
Mhm. So right,
So go ahead.
right after Joel Munroe was murdered, did it just fucking snap click right away? Like you're making these decisions, like you said, pushing people away that are good friends because you don't want them close to you, trying to take care of certain people. Like, does your whole fucking mentality and your responsibilities and priorities
Everything,
fucking change immediately?
everything. At first, I had to have a sit down with me and my co-accused, and I, we sat down and discussed going to the police and telling them their side of our side of the story. It was meant to be a fight. I didn't know anybody had any weapons. Things got out of control. It's May 2-4.
Mhm.
People are high. People are stupid. People are drunk. We're all like 20, 21. Some guys are 16, 17. You got that hysterical type of everything's escalating. Everything's getting amped up.
Mhm.
And so we thought about it, and then we just decided not to go to the police and never talk to the police about it, period. And that was just so wrong because of the money they spent and the hurt that we caused Joel's family, dragging it on for all those years. We should have just went there and owned up. We should have just said, hey man, this is what happened.
Mhm.
Like, fighting these guys, it was supposed to be a fight. I know for a fact that my co-accused didn't mean to kill Joel. I know. I seen it in his eyes. I know. I've known him since he was 15 years old. So I know in my heart, it was just something foolish that he did.
Yeah, and then like you said, at the time you're considering these people your enemies. So like, what did you do to prevent retaliation? Was it hiding out in different areas? Because I assume you weren't just fucking strolling King Street in Kitchener still.
No, what I did is that's where I started to become the person that the police, while they were doing their investigation, I started to take on that persona. So one of the detectives told me, Dirk, listen, it's one thing to get the hot potato passed to you, but you held on to it, you cradled it, you liked it, you enjoyed it. And I couldn't really, yeah, it was, and it's hard to say, but I did. I took the hot potato and I did enjoy holding on to that hot potato. And I didn't really have anybody else to pass it along to. So it's kind of like it was all on me to try to fix things. So I tried to talk to some of the other, once the black and white stuff started to come out,
Mhm.
I didn't like that at all. So I started talking to some of the, other cultures, other ethnic groups that I'm aware of, other diversity groups, trying to talk to them one-on-one and say, it's not like this. And I was trying to squash the beef in the streets before it's kind of like throwing a match in a haystack and then there's a fire. I didn't want it to go that way. And you got to remember, in Kitchener, there was protests, there was things going on. It was really getting far-fetched. So once I realized that I might have enemies that are not even my enemies just because of they stand by certain other ethnic groups, so they might think it's a race thing, or people are coming up from Toronto being arrested with car full of ammunition and guns. So then I had to change my way of doing things. So I had to get into more serious drugs to make more serious money, to make more serious connections, to actually have that protection for the people in the group that I cared about.
Holy shit. So you actually fucking continued in a way. You got worse after Joel's murder.
Way worse.
Wow. That's fucking wild. So when were you interviewed at all other than when they finally nabbed you? Because I know that they interviewed you. How many times were you interviewed?
They came to my apartment. My co-accused was there. It was strange because it was one of the times where I had a firearm and ammunition because I was getting a lot of threats. So I had to make sure that my girlfriend was living with me and whoever was with me, not just myself, but I had to have protection. So me and my co-accused thought, well, what would innocent people do? Well, innocent people talk to the police. So I invited them into the apartment, but my co-accused went onto the balcony with one of the detectives, and my firearm was literally in a backpack, the only thing on the balcony. And I could see the body language of the detective just looking over at the backpack, like, why is this backpack randomly on this balcony? It's the only thing here. But I was talking to the other detective in my kitchen. And then after that interview, we were like, we're never talking to these guys ever again. Nobody talks to the police. We're not doing that. And if we have to reinforce it, then we're going to reinforce that, which is another element that changed. So now you have to start threatening people. Now you have to indirectly, give them subliminals, like nobody talks to the police, or if you do talk to the police, you better let people know about it and what was discussed. Otherwise, you're going to be considered suspect. And you have to put fear out there.
And with the retaliation, did you hear of death threats on your life?
Oh yeah. I got stabbed in my back. I got jumped. There's a lot of stuff that was never said in regards to what occurred with me after the fact.
Oh
But
wow.
I never talked to the police. I never reported it, and I never went after retaliation either. Most of the crap that was done afterwards was self-preservation, so nobody else around me got hurt. I didn't really give a shit if I got hurt, but that was what it was: protecting people while they were in prison, protect myself, protect my friends, and we all did that for each other. I wasn't the only one. It just seemed like everyone gravitated towards me more often. Therefore, I fell into that leadership scenario.
How big of a group do you think it was? How big did it get?
I would say there was around about 20 members that weren't real members, but nobody really said anything about. I think we had over 300 associates and around about maybe 50 or 60 strong members at the time.
So it was a legit organization.
Yeah. And you think of the population of Kitchener at that time, Kitchener-Waterloo at that time? I mean, right now, Kitchener alone is 200,000. I think Kitchener-Waterloo is like close to 500, but the place has exploded in the past decade. So
no, of course.
I think in
But
late
back
90s,
in-
early 2000s,
like
in one city, we were probably like.
And you got it.
Sorry, go ahead.
At any point in time, 2 or 3 phone calls could easily have 40 to 50 people.
Wow, Jesus. No, I think it escalated like that, like you said, because of the war people, because of the Serbs, because I know a lot of Serbs were in it, right? And they stuck together and they just
Yeah,
took it to another level, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because crime back home compared to crime here is a little different, you know what I mean? When if you escalate it to the next level there, you're somewhere in parliament. When you're escalating it to the next level here, you're robbing trucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a little different.
Yeah, it's different. And then I also know a lot of Serbians that didn't get along with other Serbians. So there was a lot of
some of them brought the war. Some of them brought the war back here. What I didn't really understand.
Yeah, with their Bosnians and the Croatians, there was a lot of animosity, different neighborhoods, and then but most of it was just poor time management, having a bad attitude, nobody to really be around to give you a smack and tell you stop doing this shit. Like, it's one thing to have a mom, but I think, having a strong father presence speaks volumes also, especially a father that, practices what he preaches. He might have been a tough guy back in the day, but he puts on his work boots every morning and goes to work and gets it done. And he's trying to install something in your life for you to be a better person. Like, you always come back in your 20s to respecting your father a little bit more. But a lot of people I was around didn't really have that strong father presence. They might have had some people come and go in their life, or a dude that was raising them ever since they were 11, but they never really considered them their dad. So I think a lot of problematic teenagers and adolescents go through things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, that seems to be, a popular trend in any sort of culture like that anywhere. Well, North America, anyway, I could say. The black and white thing, how the media tried to put that fucking spin on it for a while. As far as I knew, any Serbs I knew that were part of it, you saying yourself, it was never a race thing. On the other side, did they feel it as a race thing? Like, did you ever
of course.
hear
How yeah, definitely. How could
Yeah.
they not? Because it just because it's not a race thing doesn't mean people don't have prejudiced thoughts. It doesn't mean that they don't. Like, I even use the N-word negatively.
Yeah.
I told stupid jokes. I laughed. I was uneducated to certain things, like even religions and cultures. And I was your typical punk, but
Yeah.
I never considered myself to be racist. I never looked at a black person and just didn't like them because of the color of their skin. But
Mhm.
meanwhile, I would laugh at a black joke. So there was obviously the other group thought, these guys are being a little bit racist, especially when one or two people that are ignorant would do racist things to them, like
Yeah.
maybe call them the N-word. So how can you not think it's racist when that's what's going on to you?
So yeah, and to some extent it was, right? I'm sure some of those people may have had those intentions,
Yes.
right? Those
Right,
feelings.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because you can't speak for everyone. So the
No.
day you get grabbed at the hotel, was that in Kitchener or were you in a different city when the SWAT came and
No,
everything?
Kitchener.
Still in Kitchener. So
John Howard.
the John Howard, that's gone now.
Yeah, they took it down.
Yeah,
man.
they tore it down. They're building condos
Gone?
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
You guys
finally
just broke-
gone.
you just
If-
broke my heart.
Yeah, if the walls of that place could fucking speak. Holy shit. So yeah, you get brought in. Did you I would assume you're intelligent enough to not speak until there's a lawyer present, if you do say anything at all.
Yeah, we sat there and they did their thing. It was 8 hours. It went on for a little while, but there's almost like a sense of relief,
Yes, I
right?
know that. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Finally
So-
done, right?
And there was another time where I got arrested for assault. And at the time of my arrest, I was out for assault police officer. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it.
That's fair.
But I was on bail for that, which is ironic because I kept telling my lawyer, I'm not going to jail for this. And I tried to drag it out for like 2 years. So I didn't even want to do 30 days for it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to jail. So I'll just drag it out forever. I try to drag it out. So when I got arrested for that, I was interviewed by the detectives that time. And there was another time that I was just being a bit of an asshole.
Mhm.
And they weren't expecting. They were coming to interview one of my friends that they knew was staying with me. And I was just in one of those moods where I just didn't give a shit that day. So I opened up the front door and let them come in my living room, and I got a camcorder and I was taping them. And but in that interview, they were being legit with me. They were just telling me, Dirk, listen, man, like everything's going to come to an end. Like, I was like, yeah, well, it's not my job to make it easier for you. Like, I've made a decision in my life, right or wrong. I'm going to stand by it. And when you come, you come. Till then, what can I do except for make sure nobody else, do my best to make sure nobody else gets hurt. That's all I can do, Wilder.
Did the
So,
detectives treat you with respect?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Is
they definitely.
it a lot easier to have that conversation when you're fucked when they're, being civil with you and treating
Yeah,
you a certain way?
when you're both you're not playing cat and mouse. You're
Mhm.
more like playing like it's inedible. You know what we're
Mhm.
doing, you know we're here. We know that you know what we know, so it's inedible. But till
Mhm.
then, And they're just saying, they're just saying, just end it. Like, if you know it's going to end, just end it. But at the same time, it's not for me to end. It's not for me to just.
What about
So when I was finally, I never changed my mind. When they arrested me that day, I never changed my mind. In my mind, I was already prepared before the killing of Joel. I already made a commitment in my heart and in my mind. I was willing to do 10 years for selling cocaine, for doing whatever. I was already committed in my mind. So I had no fear of being that person that may have to do a 10-year bit. And that's coming from a person that never even did penitentiary time. So I was already committed. So when this was all going on, I didn't really understand first degree and second degree. And in my mind, I never killed anybody. I didn't know anybody had any weapons. I made things worse after the fact. And I try to protect people and conspiracy for this and this and that. I always just thought I was really going to get like 10 years for a manslaughter.
So wait, when you say that you were already like committed to the idea of like, that's going to happen to me, was that I'm doing shit I shouldn't be doing, I'm breaking the law, like everybody gets caught? Or was that just like, I really don't give a fuck about anything, so when it happens, it happens?
No, it was definitely the first one that you said.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I'm breaking the law. I know what I'm doing. I know eventually I'm going to get caught for certain things, but I also had other aspirations. Like, if the killing of Joel never occurred, I probably would have went into, sorry, excuse me, I got a itchy foot. I keep scratching my foot. Yeah. So, but I would have probably went into some sort of grow up. I probably would have tried to get away from dope. I probably would have tried to make like $100,000 and maybe start a business or buy a property. Or I had these aspirations when I was 17, 18, 19, 20 to be like, I wanted to be a gangster. But then I wanted to get away from that and just be okay later on in life. But I knew that the decisions I was making in my life, in order for me to get there, there's a possibility I'm going to be breaking a lot of laws before I get there. I'm not going to get to where I want to be by working a 9 to 5. So my belief system and my attitude, and then obviously the killing happened, and that just spiraled way out of control afterwards, and it basically fast-tracked a lot of other things.
Kirill, you were going to say something?
I was just going to ask, at the end of the day, what were the charges for you?
First-degree murder.
Damn, all the way, eh?
Yeah, premeditated murder. They gave me the overcharge.
And that's what you're convicted of too?
No, I got convicted of second-degree murder. And on second-degree murder there's an A, B, and C to that conviction. First-degree murder is premeditated murder. It's automatic 25 years in prison. You don't get any less or any more unless you're a young offender that gets charged with first degree. You'll probably get, I think it's life 15 for first degree if you're a young offender. Second-degree murder there's a minimum of 10 years and a max of 25 years. So they sentenced me to life 13. And what life 13 means is you don't have any parole eligibility or opportunities until your 13th year in prison, but you have to be in a minimum security. So therefore, I started in a max. You have to, you're in jail. You have to make it to a medium to get to a minimum. A lot of people can't cascade through the system. You can be charged for borrowing somebody's CD, smoking a cigarette, having a sip of moonshine, getting a tattoo. Those things can keep you locked up for an extra decade, believe it or not.
Wow.
Is there such a thing as a life sentence? Like, what would one have to do?
Life sentence in Canada there's no such thing of a life sentence in regards to that. Life sentence means you're on parole the rest of your life. So currently, even though I've been released, I'm on parole until the day I die, and then some. I'm still in the federal documentation for a minimum of 12 years after I pass away.
So there's nothing that would, I mean, like, I'm obviously American, probably based on that comment alone. And like, we just throw all kinds of people in jail just forever. That's what we do.
Yeah, America's completely different. I've met a couple of people that came over from America, got themselves convicted on a murder charge. But over there, you can get 20 years for just doing a robbery without even a weapon. So they're not as, some areas are not as fearful. I met a lot of guys from the States, and they're like, well, what difference does it really make? Like,
Yeah.
you kill somebody or you don't kill somebody, you still might get 50 years for armed robbery, right? It's insane that
Yeah, they
you
give
can
out
get,
military sentences there.
yeah, yeah,
Holy shit.
So in theory, could
yes.
somebody go to jail just like every 25 years, every 15 years? Like if you get out, what do you go back if you violate parole?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And then for how long?
I probably, depending if it was mine or not. Let's say I got into an altercation and it was serious, or I went back to a certain lifestyle and got busted with drugs. Obviously, that shows a state of mind that I'm a problem for society. It's not like I was just minding my business and, got into a small altercation. When you get into minor things, there's a deference program where your parole officer vouches for you and you go back to community and do like a community service program. But if it's something serious, especially for history like mine, like if I got into like anything, even if it was self-defense and I explained it was self-defense, I would probably go back to prison for about 6 months before I got to explain it to a parole board.
So
And
if that
that's if they
happens,
release me afterwards.
so if that happened, where do you go? Like, do you, or Kitchener, Waterloo? Where do you end up?
I go to a provincial system for up to 30 days, but because I'm federal, they can't keep me any longer than that from my regulation. And then once the parole officer says, sorry, we're not going to let you back out, you have to see the parole board, I'm automatically sent back to a federal penitentiary. And now I'm not allowed to go back to the minimum security. Well, not because of anything I did in that minimum security, but they've put this new law, they've implemented this new strategy where you go back to a medium security. And if you don't get parole from a medium security, you have to earn your right to be in a minimum security, which could take another year and a half. And then you have to go through the process of getting released again. So there's a possibility that something serious could set you back for, 5 years.
That's so wild, though, sounding to me. Like that's nothing compared to what's out here.
If you get out after that at all, because you could go back and then have another altercation in there. You could receive a couple of other charges. Yeah.
Wow.
But compared to the States, it is.
That's crazy sounding.
I'm quite fortunate.
Yeah.
I'm quite fortunate that I only did 15 years for my crime.
Did you ever think you would hear yourself saying that sentence?
No, but when I grew up a little bit and evolved a little bit more as a human being, I started to realize the damage I was causing everybody else around me and the destruction that I was also causing. I kind of feel like I wasn't arrested, but I was rescued. I kind of feel like I still think like a criminal. I still have certain things I got to work on. I talk to counselors. I got a psychologist. There's things that are ingrained in me, not just from my childhood or my lifestyle, but 15 years in prison has an effect on a human being also. So to go back on your question, I kind of gapped out there. I rambled a little bit, and I can't see anybody right now, Dolan.
That's okay.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, because I can see myself, so I feel like I'm talking to myself again.
Well, we're here to see you, so that works out well.
Okay, can you repeat the question, please? I drifted off. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Would I ever hear myself saying that? No, not at the time. But now I'm now I'm grateful. A lot of people have said to me, like, Dirk, man, you didn't really deserve what you got. You shouldn't have done 15 years. You didn't kill anybody. I know other people that kill people and only do 10 years. But when I think about if I didn't go to prison, the path that I was on, I would have probably destroyed other lives. I'm not just talking about killings, but I'm talking about like maybe I would have been stuck selling all this new drugs you got out there, this meth and fentanyl
and all that shit.
Yeah.
Maybe I would have fell into that and then indirectly harmed other people.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I would have continued Slingers, and maybe some people wouldn't. After I went to prison, Slingers kind of faded out. So
Mhm.
everybody else had a chance to, get on with their life and have children and this and that. So when I think if I never went to prison, what harm I could have possibly caused. So at the end of the day, I'm quite fortunate that I only did 15 years.
So to
Because there's
hear
some,
you, sorry, to
go
hear
ahead.
you speak though, like you clearly, there's been a lot of reflection that's happened in your life, and you've had a lot of time
course.
to kind of sit with yourself, right, and do a lot of thinking.
Mhm.
Did you go through stages to get there? Were you angry and resentful and all that, or were you mostly?
I wouldn't say I was angry and resentful because right off the bat I was remorseful. Um, Never wanted this to happen. It wasn't a good time. It wasn't a victory. It was
Mhm.
just more like a tragedy, and it's like you're stuck in this pile of shit that you stepped in for yourself. But and then you got to learn. You're thrown into another culture where your street life is actually, your ammunition. It's actually helping you out in this new atmosphere. So adjusting the prison and then going through some of the stuff, I wasn't really angry about what was going on. I was just more concerned about how long it would be going on for because I didn't know how long I was going to be sentenced or go to prison. I was in provincial system for 3.5 years before I went to trial.
Mhm.
So I didn't have any possessions, no belongings. Visits were behind closed glass for 20 minutes twice a week. So there was a lot of removal from the norm in society. And you don't have, like I said, you don't have your own possessions. You're in a cell with one or two other people. So you don't even have a cell to yourself. So I got accustomed to living like that for 3.5 years. And then I go to trial. And the whole time I've been wrestling with, well, when's this going to be over and how long am I going to have to do? Can we just get on with it?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Where,
I wouldn't say, go ahead.
where was this 3.5 years in Milton?
Yeah, Milton.
That's a tough time, man.
Yeah, well, when I first went in, being known as the fucking white Nazi fucking skinhead, black guy killer. And
Yeah.
so I did a lot of fighting right off the bat. And a lot of these guys just realized this person's not who we think he is. So, and I also really thought I might get a manslaughter and I might be out in a few years. So a lot of things were just kind of like putting another notch on this
I
invisible
just I
that
know
I thought I had.
I know
Yeah.
Milton of being a spot for every try hard little asshole to come in there and just because you know what I mean.
Yeah. Build a
They're,
name.
they're not doing what you're doing. They're doing 6 months to a year, maybe. You know what I mean.
Yeah,
They were never even
no, but
looking at they were never even looking at the pen time. But then at the
yeah, I
same time,
was,
I know a guy went in for 6 months, did 2.5 years.
Fuck.
yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
know, yeah, I know, but I was still in the same mindset. So it's not like I was very peaceful. I was 5 days after my 21st birthday is when Joel passed away.
Mhm.
I was arrested 21 months later, which was Valentine's Day, 3 months before my 23rd birthday. So I was still very aggressive young male and
Mhm.
going in there thinking that you're gonna possibly be released in 5 years. I was constantly fighting all over again. And then I
Yeah.
built that reputation again. And then I adopted that stupid fucking identity again. So for 3.5 years, I was that guy again. I was the same Dirk Young that I created for myself in Kitchener for the 8 years I was out there.
I don't think there's any way other to be in Milton for 3 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It's
So wait,
fucking
did the
rough
book?
go.
Maybe I'm fast forwarding a little bit here, but did the book overlap with your time being served? Did that start as a thought, or did you start writing things down back then, or has that been since?
The book was when I was incarcerated, somebody did say, hey, you should write a book. But what happened is my mom, sorry, I have to burp. Sorry, guys.
All good.
Excuse me.
You're so
My mom
offensive.
Amy does worse all the time.
You're so full of shit. Go on.
No, when I was younger, my mom told me, listen, if you're not going to have a dad around and you don't want to fucking talk to me, write something down, look at it a couple of days later, elevate how you're feeling, evaluate, and then if you don't want to talk to me about it. So it kind of was like journaling. So I lost contact with that when I first came to Canada, and I picked it up again while I was incarcerated. So I would just start the journal again. And the whole point of me doing that was, for me, I called it the realness we hide, was for me to send it to my father so he could understand who I was, what I was going through mentally, physically, the things I've adopted in my life, my belief systems, anything on a spiritual level. It was kind of for him. And then he passed away during my incarceration, so he never had a chance to have that. So I took elements of those journal writings that I had over 10 years, and then that's what I used a lot of it in the book. I decided to write the book. The book was basically written pre-release, and then I finished the last 2 chapters my 3rd year of release. So when you read the book, it's actually my words during my incarceration.
I was gonna ask, was there anybody editing the book before it came out, or is it all you?
I paid $3,600 for the book to be published from a Canadian company called Tell Well. They're fantastic. They have all the platforms. And then when I think it was $1,200 for the editing to be done, but they wanted to change certain things in regards to, because I own creativity of the book, and I wanted to sound like the way me and you were talking right now.
Yep.
So when you change somebody's language from experiential learning and journal type, when you read the book, a lot of people feel like they can actually hear me, like I'm talking to them. But they suggested, instead of me saying something along the lines of me and my mom, why don't you write my mother and I? I go, because that will sound like anybody wrote the book. I don't want correct literature. I wanted to, but I also wanted it to gravitate towards everybody from all walks of life. It's not a jail story. It's not a street story. It's not a gang story. It's mostly about belief systems. When do we adopt what we adopt? Why do you believe in aliens and another person believes in God, and this person believes that COVID is shit and it's fake, and this person believes COVID is real? Where did you adopt that? When did that happen? Who taught you that? Did it come from your parents? Is it something you gravitated towards in life? Why did I go the direction I did in my life? So it creates those questions while telling a story. That's the whole concept of the book. And it's also because I've seen the changes in prison, and there's a lot more younger people going in. It's a lot more, the demographics have changed, the attitudes have changed, the crimes have changed. It's a lot more street oriented. And I hope somebody at the right time might read that and think, hey, you know what, man, that it's a real story. I don't want anybody else going through what I did.
So forgive me for not knowing this, but what was the release date on the book?
It was November of last year, first week of December 2019.
Okay, so 2019.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you serve your time, you get out, you have a life again, you write the book, you release the book, and then the world shuts down. What do you do for that year?
That year, I struggle with employment because of my own mental health issues and social awkwardness, believe it or not. So the last year, I've just been searching for employment, making some new friendships. I can't really explain because of the COVID. It's not like I'm going out there traveling or seeing people or doing this or doing that. Just kind of get on with it, I suppose, to answer your question. Just moving forward every day.
That's dealing with that is something people have to deal with globally. But the adjustment from all those years in prison back to regular life, how the fuck was that? You had your adjustment from England to Canada, and I mean, we talked about that, but that adjust, like, do they prepare you for what's on the fucking outside? Because like when you went in, 50 Cent wasn't even fucking out yet. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to think about that. Smartphones were not a fucking thing, right?
Well, no, definitely. I've only been out for 4 years, and they do try to give you programs and preparation and violence prevention programs, and it's almost like a rewiring of your criminal attitude to program you differently, to prepare you for, adjusting to pro-social lifestyles and somebody else's form of what's normal or not. So there is a preparation for that, and it doesn't matter how much schooling you take. It doesn't matter how many programs you take. If you're in a state of mind where you want to change, then you're always going to be trying to change or learn something new or move forward. If you never want to go to jail, then you just period. You're not going to go to jail. You just have to make that decision in your mind. But for me to adjust into society when I got released, I didn't like sitting inside of a bus stop. I didn't like being enclosed. I don't like it. I've did a lot of time in segregation. I don't like that. Even with it, and to speak on the smartphones. So I'm sitting down, and I keep telling people this story because back when I was out, you could tell who the fucking crazy nuts were. They're the ones walking around talking to themselves. So
Welcome to 2017.
Yeah. So I get out and everyone else is talking to themselves, and I'm like, okay, all right. Then everyone's like, oh, it's an app, it's Bluetooth, it's this. I'm like, okay, great. Teach me the language before you teach me the word. You can't just say that's an app and expect me to know what an app is. What the fuck is an app? What's Bluetooth? What's any of this? So this guy's talking to himself, and I look over and I'm trying to be polite, and I'm like, excuse me, I think he's talking to me. He looks at me like I'm the crazy one.
Like you're the asshole, right?
What are you talking to me for? Like, you looked at me, and I was like, all right, okay. Sorry, I didn't. But that was just one experience.
So what does a minimum security look like in Canada? If you obviously get no smartphones or internet, what are you allowed?
Minimum security, you have your own room. You receive groceries depending on which minimum security you're in, so you can cook your own food, which is preparing you for your release because you have to do those things on your own. There's no fence, there's no barbed wire. The guards come around every 2 hours instead of every 20 minutes when you're locked in your cell. They come around the compound every 2 hours and just double check everything's okay. You can get work releases for up to 60 days after you get a parole hearing. You can get unexploded temporary absences, which are known as UTAs, which is you go to a halfway house for a couple of days, get to see your family. So there's a lot more preparation it's the last step before you release as a lifer. But most people that have some sort of history or record or crime, there's a SRS, I believe it's called, Security Reclassification Scale. So when you come in and you don't have any charges or any history of violence or anything, you might get 9 years for moving cocaine. You'll go straight to a minimum security. So you never have to go to a medium security or maximum security. And then
how much
if you have it, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say how much tighter is the medium security then? Obviously, you get the wire, you get the wire in the fence, but then do you get
there's lockdowns.
Do you get to because I know in Canadian pens they let you work, right? So when does the work stop? Can you work at the medium security level?
Yeah, you can work in the medium security, but it's not like real jobs. It's more like you come out and mop the unit or clean the unit, or you're in charge of your ranger's laundry, or some people might work at food services or where you go to get your canteen. And then they'll let out different blocks at different times to utilize the yard and the gym, which minimizes a lot of problems because now you don't have 100 guys in a gym that only fits 20 people trying to get an hour workout in. So they let you out at different times. And there's a lot of mediums that are a lot more serious now. There's cameras on your ranges where you live.
Now the maximum security, you know, what we see on TV all the time, whether you're in Canada or not, you see American television, you see fucking Rikers Island, Pelican Bay, the worst of the worst. But how bad are the facilities here in Canada, or at least the ones you've been in, or the ones you've talked to people?
The one I was in, they closed down. It's the next step from the SHU, which is a special handling unit. So it's basically the worst of the worst. It houses 120 people. And you screw up there, you go to the SHU, which is about 24-hour lockdown. So where I was it's like, luckily for me, I had been around violence and I was more immune to seeing certain things happen. But I was there for 2.5 years and I saw death. It's a known fact. You can Google J Unit Millhaven. They've closed it now, but that's where I lived for 2.5 years. And that was,
I've
I
heard of
would
that
say
place.
I would give that a run against any American prison.
Really? It's that fucking bad, eh?
It's weird because when you're in there, you don't think it's that bad,
Okay. Yeah, because
right?
it's your life,
You-
right? It's your
your life.
environment.
You're in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you become immune to everything. The tear gas, the riots, taking a shower with somebody else's blood on the wall, stepping over a body because you want to go and get fucking a chocolate bar and a bag of chips, and it's before you get locked down because you. I'm not saying it happens daily, but
Yeah,
these
yeah,
are
yeah.
actually.
And what about
Went-
the COs? Do the COs get attacked fairly often in there?
Yeah, it's different. They get assaulted. There's a lot of time the COs get assaulted, but they don't even call you by your name. I had a correctional officer that bumped into me in a medium security, and he called me by my first name, and I was still being a bit of a dick. I was like, "Don't call me by my first name. It's Mr. Young to you, or don't call me anything at all. We're not friends.
How'd
We're
that
not-
go?
Yeah, no, it was fine because I was just trying to adjust to a medium.
Hmm.
Because before that, he didn't call me by my first name. And then I asked him later on, a couple of months later, when I got more used to him, because he didn't stop. He was like, "Hey, Dirk," and I was like, "Oh, fuck off." And it just, and then I got more used to the COs calling me by my name. It's reprogramming. It's what they do when you go down to a lesser level. Even the color schemes of the prisons change. The more you cascade down the system, the
Mhm.
brighter the colors become. It's all geared. It's all
Holy shit.
simulation.
All mental. Yeah.
Yeah. So this officer, I asked him, I go, why didn't you used to call me Dirk? He goes, "Dirk, when we're in a maximum security and you guys are, stabbing each other, fighting each other, causing a riot, I can't look at you on a personal level in case I have to shoot you." And I've been there when people have been shot. So that's the way they are trained mentally to detach themselves from looking at you as an individual, because they may hesitate in a
Yeah.
situation where they have to pull the trigger to. And a lot of people think that guards, their mission statement when they get hired, are to protect you, like you in society, from
Yeah.
the inmates. It's not. Their number one protocol that they're sworn into is to protect an inmate from harming themselves or harming others. That's their number one protection. So if you're in the middle of a knife fight and you get told, drop your weapon, and you're hurting another inmate, they'll shoot you, man. They have to. They have to protect the other.
Holy shit, eh? That is wild.
So Max is different. Max is
That
but
would
like
make
I
it
said, it was
a lot
J.
rougher.
It was J Unit. J Unit. You
Millhaven.
can Google it. It's called Millhaven J Unit, and it doesn't house any protective custody people. It's
Just the
it
worst of the
does not.
worst.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the worst of the worst. It's just you can give everybody some sort of credit because you don't need to have a documentation, which is AKA called a paperwork party. Anybody that knows they not welcome in J Unit doesn't go to J Unit. Anybody that has touched kids or raped women or they got serious beefs or but you got to remember there's other people in there that lived a pro-social life. They could be a bricklayer, electrician. Their wife was cheating on them. They had a fucked up moment, killed their wife, got second-degree murder. They don't know nothing about protective custody. They don't have no enemies. So now they're thrown in the mix of other people with that kind of attitude that will harm you if push comes to shove.
Mhm.
So, and those people have to cascade through the system and also be released back into society. But for them, I think it's a little bit easier because they had a pro-social life before they went. So for them, prior to their incarceration, they had an identity. So when they get out of jail, it's kind of like they just tap right back into who they were, almost like prison was just something they had to go through. When to me, prison is a huge part of my identity, and it's hard for me to get back into society when I was never really a pro-social member of society to start with. And then there's a lot of things I can't do. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your
Yeah,
thought.
there's a lot of things, like I'm not trying to play the violin here. It's just the truth is, when you're on life parole, not just because you've been to a federal situation, federal penitentiary, not just because of that. It's worse in the States when you have a record. At least over here you can vote, but over there you're hindered from doing so many things. Over here, I can't work for a moving company because that moving company cannot bond me because of my federal record to go into a residential property to move furniture.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't be bonded for certain companies unless, somebody's subcontracting for a gas company and I went to school for HVAC and that friend of mine hired me. No
Okay.
HVAC company, no electrician, no nothing like that. So all those are excluded. Even though I'm released, those are excluded from me.
Okay. On the day of your release, what all through all those years, what kind of emotions are you going through?
See, the thing is, I believe in 360. A lot of people don't believe in this thought process, but it's not about God or spirits or anything like that or aliens. I just believe sometimes if you're aware of stuff that's going on around you, you can duck it when the bad things are happening or reach up and grab some of the good things. So the answer to your question is the 360 effect in my eyes is I stole the firework display from Kitchener-Waterloo on the night that Joel died. So I didn't want to be released, until they were having a firework display in the city I moved to. So the first night I got out, I went to the firework display, and it was Windsor, Detroit, and it was one of the biggest, beautiful, and I just felt like that was meant to be. Like everything came back to a 360. I've made everything right. Yeah, I just felt like I made everything right, considering that it was May 24 Victoria Park weekend, and nobody got to see their fireworks that night when Joel died. So I just thought maybe 15 years later, I should come out and actually. So my first night was firework night, and I spent another, maybe 3 months in prison, more than I had to, just to be released on that night.
Wow. Holy shit. What is that like? So what, they come to you and tell you that you're eligible for release and you tell them I'm not ready?
No, it's not even
How's that
close.
work?
Like remember when I said you get life 13 or life 15 or whatever?
Yeah.
To what am I thinking? All right. So we've already established that life in Canada doesn't mean life like it is in America.
Yep.
So it just means you're on parole for the rest of your life. And when you get a certain number, life 10, life 13, life 20, you're not eligible for any of your day paroles or ETAs, which are escorted temporary absences with regard, UTAs, which are unescorted temporary. You're not eligible for any of that until you do your 13. So I was in a minimum on my 13th year and I was on a work release. So on my work release, some other people were up to some bullshit. I'm on my way out the door. I don't care. I get called in on this bullshit. I won't cooperate with the security intelligence officer. I end up going back to a medium security after doing 30 days of segregation.
Fuck.
So what? Yeah, but my Charter of Rights in Canada allows me to hire a lawyer to say, produce your evidence in a court of law. A lot of people don't realize that the Charter of Rights, I think it's number 7 something. It's called a habeas corpus. So I can go to court and bring whoever's hurting me to court in front of a judge and say, produce your evidence. And there was nothing on me. I didn't do nothing wrong. It was a fucked up situation. So I had to go back to the minimum security after 8 months. I had to reapply to the parole, which takes you 5 to 6 months just to get a hearing. Then I had to go out on UTAs for a whole year, which they gave me 3 days, 3 days and 7 days to go to the halfway house I'll be living in so I can acclimate myself and get more familiar with being out. They don't just want to kick you out the door as a lifer and say, there you go. So I did an extra 2 years because of that bullshit. But to answer your question, no, they don't just come along. When you're a lifer, they don't. Like, for instance, if you two, got a 5-year bit,
Yeah.
You probably do 2/3 of your bit, depending on your record or your violence, or one of you
Mhm.
might go to a medium, one might go to a minimum. You'll
Mhm.
probably do about 2/3 of your time, be released in society,
Yep.
do another third of your time on parole, and then it ends. But when your dates are there, your dates are there. So if you get 3 years, your date at 2 years, they kick you out the door. But
Mhm.
when you're a lifer, it doesn't matter. My 13 years could have turned into 20 years if I wasn't in a minimum and I didn't apply. There's stages. So it takes a long time. You got to go
They,
for,
they want you
go
to
ahead.
show. They want you to show the work, right? They want you to show that you want to be a part of society, that
Yes.
you want to work, you want to get out, you want to fill out the paperwork,
Yes.
because that's what you do out here, right? Canada is all about paperwork. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, it's right. You're right. 100%. I concur with you 100. But it takes a lot of time. That's why a lot of people get stuck, because they might be, you know, your day parole date's coming up, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, my parole officer's not really pushing anything or working this for me. We're butting heads. Your parole officer makes you wait another year because he or she has so many people on their caseload, and other people have mandatory release dates, so they got to do the paperwork and get them out. So you get put on the back burner. So now you go a year past your dates. You apply to the parole board. You wait 6 months, get in front of them. They approve you for ETAs. You do a 60-day work release. You come back, everything's all right. You apply to the parole board again, depending if your parole officer is actually having your back and helping you out, not too swamped with their own personal lives and whatever's going on. And hopefully they're professional enough. Then you get back in front of the parole board, and then you go for unexcluded temporary absences. You got to do that for over a year, come back. Hopefully your parole officer still has your back. Then you got to reapply to the parole board, wait the 5-6 months to get in front of them just to ask for day parole to go to the halfway house.
Wow.
So it's
Holy
not,
fuck.
yeah, people just think that I did, 15 years and got out. It's not at all.
Not that
So,
simple.
so if you were there 3 months longer than you were supposed to be, how did it
Yes.
happen that you got out on that day, the fireworks day?
Because the thing is, when you apply to a halfway house, they have beds. They get federal money they got grants. They get their money to fill their beds, so they can take different people at different times. So 3 days prior to the date I wanted to be released on, they knew somebody was leaving the halfway house. So I think it was 2 days, 2 days before. So I said, can you hold that bed, please, for me? And then I'll trade my spot right now for somebody else to be released. So when they have a bed for you, sometimes it's take it or leave it. So
First
I
come, first
chose to
serve.
leave it, and somebody else took the bed. And it was just fortunate that there was a bed free 2 days prior to the firework display.
How long do you get to be in a halfway house before you're allowed to get your own place and your own job and all that?
I did 20 months, and most lifers do 18 months to 3 years at a halfway house, which is beneficial because a lot of people get out and they bitch and moan about it because they want their freedoms back.
Yeah.
But think about it. You get out, you got no job, nothing to do, except for you got a girlfriend and 2 kids. And you move straight into the apartment, straight into those stresses, straight into those responsibilities. You don't have a job yet. There's a lot going on. You're going to fall back into your old habits or your bad patterns. So halfway houses can be beneficial to give you a break from that. And for me, it was good chance of me to rediscover something about myself. So I'm happy that I went to a halfway house for a year and a half, because I got to have a job and realize I don't like this job. I'm going to try something else. I got to discover myself a little bit more, because it would have sucked just to get kicked out into society and here's your rent. You got to pay rent. You got to get a job. You got to do this. You got to do that. I don't know if I would have been so successful with those kind of stresses on me.
Yeah, because before you even went in, it's not like you were holding down a 9 to 5 ever, right? It was all
No.
illegal activities, how you gained your income, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you didn't have skills to fall back on. You were never a fucking plumber before you went in or anything like
Did
that.
you
right?
take
Yeah.
any? Did you take anything in jail? Any sort of course? Any sort of education?
Yeah. Took post-secondary, took some college. I did whatever courses they could give me in there, which I thought having a stack when I get out, I thought it would be great to have it. But to be honest with you, hasn't done fuck all for me out here. The truth is, You got to be at the right time in the right moment when the person needs somebody for the right thing. And sometimes it's who you know. So all my college and everything doesn't really do shit for me. All my certificates I got.
Yeah. No shit, eh?
What would you like to do?
I do enjoy having, how do I express myself? Variety. So a lot of jobs that I do on my own would be one day it might be doing some drywalling in somebody's basement, or another day I'm doing some painting, or I'm repairing the roof, or I'm doing some maintenance, or I'm doing landscaping. I like to be outside. I'm pretty good at landscaping stuff. I just can't stand still in a factory. I can't really work in an environment where people are talking at me a certain way. It triggers certain, and I suffer from anxiety and things of that nature. I try to deny myself that, but when you're physically having a response from certain things that are going in your life, you can't deny that. Like I had a job just a couple of months ago, and my brain works. It's overactive. It analyzes everything. It goes through. I can't shut it off. So all of a sudden, I'm not sleeping. I got anxiety. I'm having small panic attacks. All these things to me are just like, just get on with it. I never grew up with everything being labeled like that. For example, if a kid has a peanut butter allergy, a lot of people are like, hey man, just get on with it. But if the kid's having a fucking real reaction from the peanut butter, like you can't just you can't just say it's get on with it, get over it, lick some peanut butter every. So I started to get nosebleeds and stuff, and that's what triggered me in the last couple of months to reach out to try to ask for some help and get some more support. So right now I'm dealing with another psychologist, and it's just good sometimes to have people to talk to understand, because it's difficult out here. A part of me is very grateful that I'm out here after everything that I've been through, and I know in my heart I'm quite fortunate. But at the same time, it's not like it's all rainbows and butterflies for me.
Would you ever want to be part of a program where like you're public speaking in front of teenagers or whoever it may be, maybe not even teenagers, about your story, and you know what I mean, and hopefully changing somebody's fucking life or preventing them from the path?
I did that the last 1 year prior to my release.
Yeah.
I did criminology classes in universities, and when I came to Windsor, they got a program out here. So they put me into this where I talked to troubled teens, and I was speaking at criminology classes and doing questions and answers. The only problem is when I first was released, I was trying to put prison behind me and try to get rid of that identity, move past that. So as therapeutic as it was and helpful as it was, I'm the one that had to rehash that and relive it and decompress afterwards.
Yeah.
So I wasn't at that state of mind with all these other pressures going on. But now I've recently been hired by the halfway house. I get paid for 10 hours a month to represent their Lifeline liaison link.
Oh, right on.
So I'm doing stuff like that to help other lifers. Windsor is the only place in all of Ontario where a convicted lifer can hang around for another convicted lifer, because they've built a foundation out here where lifers help lifers. Everybody in society knows when you work for Correctional Services of Canada, lifers are the ones that are less problematic and less deemed to go back to prison compared to other convicted criminals or people with federal record. So out here, not Toronto, not Brampton, not Kitchener, not Cambridge, nowhere else, just Windsor.
Just Windsor, eh?
They've been around for 60 years, and they created this. And at first, they were the first people to start taking lifers, so they were known as the killer halfway house.
What a fuck.
So, but they had this concept of, well, who else is going to help? If you have addiction issues, who are you going to talk to? If you have alcohol issues and you go to AA, why not create a group of lifers, help out other lifers? And it's been very.
I'm sorry. I was just about to say it seems like the same idea as the AA, because they say that
Yes.
the only person that could help an alcoholic is only and it's another alcoholic.
Yeah, so the foundation of it is good, but I wasn't in the right mindset when they offered it to me about a year ago. They've always because like I said, I felt the pressure of I have to be pro-social. What am I doing really that makes me happy? I no one's up my ass. Parole out here is fine with me, but I'm always feeling like I have to put on some sort of like I have to have a 9 to 5. I have to be doing this. I have to be doing why? It's my life. I'm okay. Can I do some stuff that makes me happy? And then I realized I'm never gonna get away from prison. A lot of people get out and like I said, they move forward with their life. They get a wife, they get some kids, they get married, they get themselves a nice job. They want to put it behind them, and it never happened for them. But for me, it's a huge part of my identity, and I can't run away from it no more. So recently, I've just come to grips that I'm going to use it as my advantage and try to, speak on it and give some more experiences. These are the things that I get joy from.
Good. With the fuck, sorry, I just lost my thought.
Yeah. Well, I ramble.
You got this, no?
No, man. Sorry, it's completely gone.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
I'm
sorry
sorry.
I'm sorry I did that to you, man.
No, it's all good. It wasn't even you. It was right
Yeah.
there at the tip of my tongue, and then it just fucking faded away.
Yeah, that happens all the time, Dirk. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
All right.
helping other people is a good path, man, because I know a lot of, like, I've been through my share of drug abuse and all kinds of stuff too, right? And I've been through certain institutions too, and I've met people that went through shit, and then they were actually getting paid a lot of money to go talk to kids and all kinds of stuff because of the experiences they had, and because they could speak. And you can obviously speak, you can push a story, you know what I mean? It's entertaining talking to you, so it's a good thing you're doing, that's for sure.
Yeah, you are very well spoken. That's why I was actually asking before if you do any sort of public speaking. Okay,
Yeah.
if you found writing therapeutic, maybe you need a podcast.
Are you hitting on me, man? Come on
Yes,
now.
he is. Yes.
Yeah, you made me blush, and I've been gone for a little while. The world's changed. I don't know, man. You're hitting on me right now.
No.
I have a very hard-hitting, important question.
Yes,
You have no accent. Why?
I tried to fit in too hard when I first came here.
I did that too. I feel you.
Yeah, I try to, instead of saying I can't, I said I can't. Instead of saying, McDonald's, I'd said McDonald's. Instead of saying him, I'd say home. Instead of saying ta, I'd say thank you. Instead of saying I say yes. Because I'm a Geordie. So where I grow up in England, we're known as Geordies. So we have our own patois to the way we talk. We don't talk. We use certain slang that you might hear on Coronation Street, like "Don't be daft," or "You're being cheeky," or "Don't take the piss out of me." But we have our own, like cigarettes are called taps. Like we have our own language, which just sounds, when you put it in sentences, it's worse than the deepest Newfie accent you've
I was
ever
about
heard.
to say Newfies. I was about to bring Newfies.
It's like
into
listening to a Jamaican Newfie.
Oh my
Like,
God. I mean, you sound like you're from Michigan. So
Yeah, well, I get away with that. A lot of people are, "Where you from?" I just tell them New York. It just seems easier. Like, "Yeah, I'm from New York." They're like, "Oh yeah," I go, "Yeah, Boston."
Boston.
love
It just simplifies everything.
I
But if
heard
you think about it, a lot of people back in the early 1900s during the World War I and everything, when the 5 Points was being built in New York, when you think about it, a lot of the Irish came over to those parts. So all those broken languages, no wonder I sound a little bit like I might be from that area, because I have that broken, but I miss it. I'm sure if I had went back home for a couple of years, it would come back. I
It
understand
comes back. It comes back.
I
quick,
hope
man.
so. Oh, I
does.
miss it so much.
Are you allowed
People
to
take
travel?
the piss.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Go ahead. No. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, people take the piss out of me when I say water. I don't understand, like, how am I saying water different?
You say
They're always
water
like-
it's like a New Yorker.
Yeah, water. Like, I really don't. I don't get it. I'm saying water.
Say coffee. Say coffee.
Coffee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see what?
No, I thought it was gonna come out like coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Call
Coffee.
me. Yeah. You're talking to a New Yorker, so
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Dirk. Is there anything else you guys want to get in before we start wrapping up with Dirk?
No, I think we covered pretty
Is
much.
there
well,
anything?
I need to know how you feel about social media. Like, did you get online and go, "What the fuck happened? Why are we all doing this now?"
Yes.
Yeah. Do you use social media?
It's a platform I feel like I'm pressured into using.
To promote your book, or because everybody uses it now?
Just because that seems to be the new norm. It's the life. It's how everyone interacts with each other. It's completely. It can be beneficial for a guy like me in regards to wanting to talk and reconnect with some people from England, or do things like of this nature without their traveling. Also, YouTube. Like I get stuck. I don't really know something. I want to learn how to rewire the electrical light that I'm putting in. So it's great there, but it gets away from a lot of the stuff the way I was raised. The interactions, the touch, and the physical part of stuff. So social media, and the amount of crap that people just absorb off of that, they just piggyback everybody else's ideas. They don't think for themselves a little bit. But that's a whole different story. I could go on for days about that shit.
You and Kirill, my friend.
Yes. I'm not. That's why I'm not even pouring gas on it.
No shit.
We could have another show about it.
Dirk,
this has been wonderful, guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
yeah, and we should do it again.
Thanks for
sometime.
for sharing your story, man. It's,
this is just the break of the story too. You know what I mean? There's tons of stuff to talk to, and we just like having guests that have came on before to come back and talk about random shit every once in a while, man.
No,
It's been a good chat. It's been a good chat.
I would love to. Definitely.
Your book, Under, Over, Through It, is out Amazon. Is there anywhere better than Amazon for people to buy it? Like, is there a place? I know some places they'll pay you more money than others. Is there a better plug than Amazon?
I don't know. I get as far as I know, I get for a paperback $4 a copy. For an ebook, it's like $2.30. And I went through the Tellwell Publishing, and it's like I have to buy my own book. Believe it or not.
Stop it. So wait, there's a good question. How hard is it to get published? Because it feels like anybody now, if you can just pay whatever something costs.
Yeah, well, you can. When I first wanted to do the book, and there was a little bit of a selfish reason there. So it's to answer your question. Sorry, before I ramble and drift off in my thoughts. I do it all the time. I'm fucked up for that shit. So. But yes, it's easy to publish a book, but if you want to go to a publisher that wants to take control and take away creativity from it, you won't have a lot of control over it. So Canada has a really good company out in British Columbia called Tellwell. So you can pay for extras because they already, got the platforms for everything. They can do all the stuff that you could do on your own if you wanted to research. So at first I researched how to do things on my own. I didn't realize you needed 2 different serial numbers for a paperback, for an ebook, to make sure that if anybody else has the same title as you, you have a different serial code. You have to pay for those things. I can't remember what it's called, EPRN number or something. So there's a lot of stuff that they handle. When I was researching it, I thought it was worth paying the $3,600 to this company for them to handle all those headaches, because a lot of people do it on their own for just a couple of $100. They do their own editing. They'll download software that helps them do editing. They do their own promoting. So to answer your question, it's very easy to get published. Anybody can do it. And the reason why I did it last year is I had a bad incident when I went to school for welding. Somebody found out by Googling my name about my crime and told the facilitator they don't want to be in class with a murderer.
Nice.
So the facilitators started to be a little bit different with me, and I picked up on the fight. So I asked somebody else, is something going on around here that I'm unaware of? And the guy just told me flat out, like, this girl dropped out of the class because she found out about your crime. So I thought, how do I try to make that an even playing field for myself? So at first it was a bit of a selfish motivation. It wasn't just about putting my story out there to help youth or troubled or anybody going through any problems in their life. At first it was a little bit about, well, I'm going to get my story out there, and then when people Google my name, piece of shit gangbanger, racist murderer doesn't pop up. So now when people Google my name, there's a country there. There's two different things for you to.
Yep.
I think that's fair. And
Yeah.
I also wanted my name back. People told me you should change your name, and my mom gave me that name. I don't want to change my name, so that's why I did the whole book thing. And then the result is people were really enjoying it. It was speaking to them, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from like some counselors, people in professional situations, working with troubled teens, and a lot of mothers, believe it or not, have just reached out to me, and just because of their kids are going, not just because they're joining gangs or this or that or getting into trouble, but on a parent level. So I realize it's starting to have a different effect, and I'm kind of happy with the positive effect it's having. And that's what has triggered me to want to use it to help other people now.
Is your mother still living?
Yes.
Do you have a relationship with her?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just,
Good.
you sound very fond of her when you were younger, and you've not mentioned
Yeah.
her since younger.
No. We're best friends. We're British. We're like cats and dogs. We're gonna beef till the day we die. It's not. We love the shit out of each other, and it's always just being each other. And we're too stubborn in our ways,
Yeah.
and we get along fine when we want to get along. When we don't want to get along.
So you're saying we should have you on together on the next show?
Oh
Yeah.
man, you guys would instantly regret it.
Oh, I love her. I already know that I love her.
Oh man. Oh yeah, you would definitely love her, and you probably end up ganging up on me a little
Exactly.
Yep.
That's why I know I like her.
bit. Yeah.
So is she still in Kitchener, or?
No, she relocated to Windsor, where I'm at currently, about 18 months ago.
Nice.
Right on.
So, yeah, it's nice to have her out here.
And when you like her, it's nice to have her out there.
Yeah, and when she likes me too, because
Right.
you know, like I said, I still got a lot of issues. And when you know how sometimes you take the worst shit out on the people that's closer to you because you're more familiar, and so we fall into old habits sometimes during our arguments or fights or discussions, or there's a lot of hurt there and resentments, and it's just there's a lot of damage there, mostly from my crime and what I did and what I put her through, right?
So what was that like? I mean, you can't speak for her, but was that an entirely separate layer that you had to deal with, or was she attempting to be supportive throughout it?
Oh yeah, 100%. She's always had my back and been supportive, but she suppressed a lot of it. Like I didn't know she had to go to counseling and do some stuff and this and that, and you know, avoid certain people in society. I didn't know about the threatening calls she was getting. She didn't want to add any extra layers of stress on me.
Sure.
And so a lot of that upon my release is I understand a lot more now. So there was a lot of, my mom was also a victim, and it's hard to look at your mom that way when you're incarcerated, but she was also a victim of my crime.
I think of all the things, that's what would trigger me. Like 15 years is a long time to make peace with yourself and to unlearn and unprogram and what have you. But if I got out and found out my parents were getting threatening phone calls, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah. She went through a lot, and she kept a lot of that shit in because she's always been like that. She doesn't like to blame other people. She's just like that. She's built differently.
She's stubborn.
She's just a tough woman, man. She's tough.
All right. Well, we're gonna have her on, so that's that.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there another book in the works, do you think, in your future?
Yeah, there's one coming out probably late next year, maybe early 2023.
And what's that about?
It's gonna be entitled 13 because there's an old saying, one judge, 12 jurors. And each story is going to be from another lifer. It's me and the halfway house from Windsor. We're going to work on it together. So some people will still be incarcerated, but they're from different walks of life. So you might have had a person that was in protective custody for killing his wife. You might have had another person that was a pro-social member of community and something bad happened one time and he's a lifer. You have another lifer that's been out twice and sent back to prison twice.
Huh.
So there's going to be a variety of stories, but there's going to be 13 stories. They're all going to be about 10 to 15 pages each. So the book doesn't exceed 190 pages, but there will be other stories out there to show, you know, a different side of correctional services of Canada. I have one of my best friends currently incarcerated. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Penetang. I'm sure your friend has.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he's in Penetang. He's a black guy. Somebody starts to fuck with him a little bit. So he's like, okay, all right, whatever. No. So he goes to visit the guy in the cell later with his shoes on. That's what you do up in a million of those situations. But the door's closed. He doesn't realize the guy that's messing with him is had a book knife smuggled in. So he disarms the guy, has defensive wounds, kills the guy, and then he got life 25, and he's still locked up right now. And it's one of my best friends.
Holy
His name is
shit.
Quentin. His name is Quentin. So, and it's another reason why I took the job of Lifeline, because now I can actually reach out and stay in touch with some of these guys that are still stuck in the trench and they're still in the battle. And I would like to go back and try to, you know, help them and somehow get them out.
Yes,
Eventually.
and certainly we'll be staying in touch for when you know, that book gets closer to coming out, because I'd love to have you
Yeah.
back on, and maybe even if there's a possibility of other people joining us that you would select from the book to talk about that and talk about what the book's going to be, just to give it a little bit of promo before it comes out.
Yeah, we'll help you promote
definitely.
it in any way we can, man.
Yeah, we'll promote the
I
shit out
hear
of
you.
that. That's a cool concept.
And then
Yeah.
you need to put together like an anthology of thoughts and just letters from these people, like letters from the inside, and just a collection of writings
That-
from other people.
It's
That's
a
a
great
really
idea.
nice-
It's a great
That's
idea
a brilliant
overall,
idea.
man.
There you go. It's all yours.
We're
There's
starting a
one-
publishing
the-
company.
Right?
You should. And to speak on that, because that's a brilliant idea.
Do it.
Another one of
Take
my
it.
best friends. Yeah, another one of my best friends that I was incarcerated with had his charge overturned into a manslaughter, was released. He has a book called 27 Letters, and he has his own like podcast on YouTube called 27 Letters based off of his book. But he did that. He published 27 prison letters to his
Wow.
child. So he did that, but it was all just his letters. Yours would be a little bit different, but it's still a cool concept.
I'd read the shit out of that if somebody
Yeah.
handed me that.
Well, if you guys ever want to talk to him, like he does the same thing you guys do. He's hooked in with a lot of different people and promoters in the Black community and
Huh.
things. So it might be an intriguing interview for you.
Certainly.
He has a very same experience as me, and now he's out. He's married. He's got 2 kids. He had his life bit overturned. He's manslaughter. But if you're interested in him, just go on YouTube and look for 27 Letters. Or I can give you the contact. I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
you'd love to deal
Well,
with
you
him.
might
That
actually
part
look
would
into
be
that.
easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, I see. Do I see a tattoo? What's your ink?
This one here on my arm.
I can't. Is it your left arm?
It's
Yeah, that
both.
one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's,
could only see your left arm.
no, it's supposed to be like a scroll, so you read it from left to right, from both arms. So when I put my arms together, you read it left to right. It's
Mhm.
supposed to look like it's ripped in half,
Mhm.
but it's just it was 2 quotes from the Bible around about, I would say, 13, 14 years ago that just gave me a little bit of confidence back then.
Nice.
All right, Dirk, we're going to let you get out of here. Thank you so much for your time. Is there
No worries.
anything you wanted to plug before we let you get out of here? I know you're not big
No, I
on
just-
social
I just-
media, but anything
no.
like that?
Nothing at all, man. I do.
No, leave
I
me
do.
alone.
I do a lot of shit talking on Facebook though.
Well, I'm gonna find you on Facebook.
Yeah,
All right.
Amy's on her
Well,
fucking
I
way.
got, well, I got this thing called Dirk Thoughts. So I have my own Facebook page, which is, geared towards advertising the book. And
Perfect. That's what we plug. Yeah. So what is it?
Yeah.
Dirk
But
Thoughts?
I have another one called Dirk Thoughts, and it's It's just basically me doing what I just did with you guys right now, except for when I get up and I got shit on my brain, or something's bugging me, or I seen something, or I don't journal no more. So what I do is I'll just vent to the camera and post it. So there's a lot
it's
of
video.
It's video, but I do a lot
perfect.
of shit talking.
Oh,
Great.
that's awesome.
I'm here for
Talk
it.
about all
Awesome.
kinds of stuff.
Why didn't we talk about this sooner? All right.
All right. Everybody go check out Under Over Through It. Now check out Dirk Thoughts as we just learned about. Thanks so much, Dirk, for joining us, talk about your story. For Dirk Young, Amy
thank
Barton, Kirill Kasatskiy, I'm Jay Kelly. This is Building Downtown. We out. Peace.
See ya.
Building downtown, building downtown, building downtown, building downtown.